Do the words Google Drive, Shared Drives, OneDrive, and SharePoint all together in one sentence terrify you?
Right. Like, do they compare? Are they apples and oranges? Or are they oranges and oranges? Are they apples and apples? Trying to see how all those connect and whether they're pros and cons to each is really difficult. And so we thought we'd put this video together. So let's get into it. All right, I don't know about you, Kaylee, but I am super excited about this video. There's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of words with drive in the name. So we thought this video would be really great for anyone who's like, I don't understand how these different things correlate, especially with when you're looking at Google Drive, right? And OneDrive. Are they the same sort of? And then you have SharePoint, and then you have shared drives inside the Google workspace area. And how are those the same? So with that, Kaylee, let's get into the Google Drive and let's dive into that. And then let's see how that correlates to OneDrive.
Absolutely. So Google has a product called Google Drive. Inside Google Drive, there is something called My Drive. This is your personal documents, files, and folders, and where you would store that. My Drive is personal to you and only you and your account. So if you give Joe Schmo your access to your Google account, then he could definitely see this under your account. But besides that, this is only for you. And people who are just using Google as a personal usage, not even connected to an organization itself, will also have their own drive, not connected to any sort of organization or team. You will also have your own My Drive when you're connected to an organization. And that is just for you, not for the organization, not for teams. It is just for yourself and your own personal use.
Got it.
So let me share my screen so you can see visually what that looks like. Here on my screen, I am inside Google Drive. There is a tab to your left that you can see titled My Drive. This is what I'm referring to when I'm saying My Drive, where all of your personal folders and files can be saved for yourself and your own personal usage. As you can see here, I already have a folder created called Marketing Ads, which I can happily share to anyone I would like. But for the time being, it's just for me.
Can you show me, if you were going to share it to my account, how you would do that?
So how you would do that is you would right click on the Marketing Ads folder, you would click Share, and then you would type in who you would like to send this to. So I'm going to send this to Bobby. I'm going to click on his name, and you can choose to either send a message with it to let them know. You can notify that person via email, or you can also change their settings inside the folder to make them only a viewer, a commenter, or an editor. So I'm going to make him an editor of this folder. So that gives him full access to delete, add anything into this folder.
Is that copy link in the bottom left so that you could paste it into an email to make it a little bit easier and maybe show somebody how they can get to it with context?
That is correct. So you would click on this link if you would like to just get the link itself. It is going to give the access that you have set here inside this link. So just remember that before you send the link. And you can choose to share this link however you would like, via email or message or chat with somebody, and they will get access to this marketing folder. Now, if you click send, it instantly will send this folder to Bobby's account, and it will be under something called Shared with Me. So that is a section that you can see to the very left in a tab of itself called Shared with Me. So I'm going to switch over to Bobby's account so that you can see what it looks like on his side. So here is Bobby's account. If you go to the Shared with Me section of his account, now you can see that the Marketing Ads folder is located under his Shared with Me. It's not going to be under his My Drives because it's not his personal folder. It's something that was shared with him by me.
Gotcha.
So I hope that this makes sense of how you can use the My Drives and Shared With Me sections when using your own personal data or trying to share it with others.
And I'm assuming you can do the same thing with files too, correct?
Absolutely. You can also do this with a personal document or maybe a Sheets file and just share one specific thing. So now that we've talked about My Drive under Google Drives, as well as the Shared With Me section, let's talk a little bit about OneDrive and how that can compare to that. So Bobby, do you mind walking us through that?
Sure. Yeah. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So what we have open right now is OneDrive. You can see here in the top left. The way that I got to that is by going to this little waffle. I think there's a specific name for it, which eludes me at this point. But anyhow, I just clicked on this OneDrive and it brought me here. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you can kind of see there's some similarities, right? I have my files, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you guys call it over for Google? What is it?
My Drive.
My Drive, my
Mm-hmm.
files. I wonder. And look at this, shared. Okay.
Shared.
What's is really nice here is with this one shared by you, you can very quickly in one spot see that. Now, I know you have that in Google as well, but I just do like that it's right here, very easy to see.
Mm-hmm.
I just wish that maybe this was down here as a tab. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I like being able to just like in Google, I like it where you can just click it and it's like, boom, I'm seeing the stuff that's shared with me.
Right. It's more
right
simplistic, I guess.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that much better.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like having this in a quick, I didn't know that I'm sharing this file. This is sensitive.
Yeah, that's very helpful. Yeah.
12 great things you can do with spam.
The food. Just to clarify.
Right. So in here under my files, again, just like you have in Google, these are my files. These are files that are specific to me that aren't by default shared.
Mm-hmm.
I can share that by just clicking on, like, say, this documents folder here. If I want to share it, I could sit here and say share. And then when this dialog comes up, by default, it's set to anyone with the link can edit it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can copy it. See how it's very similar?
Very similar. Yeah.
Very, very similar. I like the fact, and this is kind of score one for Microsoft, that you have a lot more in your face options from a security perspective. And I think that's some of the things that people harp on, that Microsoft does have a little bit more of a focus on security from the Google side.
Absolutely.
Compared, like you can obviously do the allow edit, you can set a specific date, and you can put a specific password, and you can limit those contexts to say only people inside with this link, people with this existing access, or specific people. And, we cover this sharing information in other videos, which Kaylee, I'm sure, can link in there while we're talking about it. And I won't go into those specific details. But this is really great that you have all of these options for you. Look, we're gonna keep it anonymous, and I'm gonna go ahead and hit apply. And in here, you can kind of see, hey, do you want to share this as a new Outlook message? So if I put this person's email and hit send, they're gonna get an email with a message saying, hey, someone shared something. Or you can do just what Kaylee said, which is just copy it, right? And then it says, okay, I've copied the link. That disappears. So you don't have the option to send anymore at that point, but now it's in your clipboard.
Right.
So you could just go ahead and open a new email, paste it in there and say, hey, here's the link to the file. The nice thing about if you're doing it from webmail, or even now in the newer updated versions of Outlook, when you paste that link, it will go, oh, that's a OneDrive share, and it will in some situations validate whether that person you're sending to inside the organization truly actually has access.
Yeah, that's very nice. That's very nice.
And then when you go to send it, you get that, which is a really nice feature.
I have had Google do that to me as well. Just to point out, when you do share that link, it will let you know if you're dealing with organizations and stuff like that, if they do have access to that folder or that file that you're linking in there.
So now that we've talked about OneDrive and My Drive, a lot of drives there, and the space and how those kind of work, let's transition now over to Google Drives and how that might translate to SharePoint. So Kaylee, can you take us off?
Yes, absolutely. Can you take us off?
Yeah. So, right. Kaylee, can you kind of kick us off?
Absolutely. So first, before I share my screen, the one thing that I need to highlight is, again, this is also going to be under Google Drives. There is something called Shared Drives that is very comparable to SharePoint. Now, if you look at OneDrive and SharePoint, they're separate entities, but here for Google, these two things are both under the Google Drive. Okay, so I'm going to continue showing you this through Google Drive. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So here I am back under Google Drives with the tab My Drive open. So that's what we talked about previously. And now we're going to switch over to Shared Drives. It's its own tab still under Google Drive.
Now, Kaylee, I think you touched on something that's really important, is that if you don't have a business account, will shared drives even show up in that location where you're looking?
No, it will not. If you're just a random user using Google.
Not important, just a random,
Totally not important whatsoever to them. No, I'm just kidding. If you're just a user just using Google for its Gmail account and you are not connected to an organization in any way, you're just going to have your own drive, your My Drive section, and you're not going to have shared drives. This is an option for organizations and sharing drives throughout your organization. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me show you guys what shared drives looks like. So I'm going to click on this tab, and here I've got 3 test drives open. I've got my public shared drive, my marketing shared drive, and my test shared drive for YouTube. You can make these images look cute and pretty with puppies if you would like. Whatever you choose to make them look like is what they're going to look like. And you can add access for anyone inside your organization that you would like by just clicking, right click on it and click the View Members section. You can see who already has access to this shared drive, and you can choose to add somebody to that shared drive if you have the access to do so. If you see here, I do not have access to share the marketing shared drive. And that is because I did not create it. It was Bobby that created it. He is the manager of this drive.
He's brilliant.
Brilliant. I can't believe he did it. I don't know how he did it. I'm going to show you guys how he did it. But I want you guys to understand that it is very simple to create a shared drive here and share it out to certain members of your organization. So let me talk you through how to do that real quick. And all you're going to start with is the new button in the top left-hand corner. Let's title this Sales Opportunities. Okay, so I'm going to click Create. And it is going to create this folder. Every time you create a folder, it sends you inside the folder. So don't freak out when it just changes the screen like that. But it lets you know here that here is what it looks like inside. There's nothing, no files or anything added to it right now. And who has access? Just me. So
Now,
there I am.
Let me be honest. How did I delete all my folders? Did that, when the first time you do that, did that go through your mind?
Yeah, well, I'm just like, why in God's name did it just like send me into a portal and just throw me there? It kind of scared me, but I don't know why it does that, but it always does that. So when you create a shared drive, once you hit create, it just hops you into it.
Yeah.
And so now you're ready to add or create files and folders inside this drive. So for example, I'm going to create a folder inside here so we can just get an idea of what that's like. You can link any sort of docs, sheets, slides, forms here, and I'm just going to create a new one. Then I'm going to click Create, and it creates that folder. It doesn't send you into the folder though when you click Create, so just know it doesn't do the same thing that it does to drives, which is interesting. But let's say now that I've created this folder, I've gotten it ready, and I'm ready to share this drive with Bobby. Okay, I'm going to go back to my main shared drive section. I'm going to right click on Sales Opportunities. I'm going to click on Manage Members. Notice how that says Manage now. Like I can manage them, because previously in the marketing shared, it just said View Members. So that lets you know if you have access to manage the members or not. So I'm going to right click, click Manage Members, and I'm going to add Bobby to this folder, or sorry, to this drive. And I'm going to make him a content manager. Now, if I wanted him to be able to delete this drive, basically do anything, so I could have him also add more people to this drive, I would have to make him a manager and not just a content manager. Okay. But I'm just going to keep him as a content manager because I don't want him to have all that control. And I'm going to send that over to him. And just know that since I sent him the whole drive, right, and he has content manager access to the whole drive, he can see everything that is under that drive. All right.
Okay.
If you wanted him to just have access to the folder under that drive, you would click under the drive itself and you would right click on that accounting opportunities folder and share that with him.
Just like you did with your My Drive.
Just like you did with your My Drive. Exactly. So this is sharing an entire drive with Bobby and everything that's under it. I want to make sure that you guys understand that so that you know the access that you're giving somebody when you give them that access. So in this case, I'm okay with Bobby having that access, and I'll show you what that looks like on his side. It's going to look exactly the same as it does on my side. I'm going to go, let's see. Here I am under Bobby's shared drives, and here is this sales opportunities drive with the nice pretty bubbles picture that was automatically created for it. And when you click on that, you can see that accounting opportunities folder and anything that would be under that. So I hope that makes sense of how you can use shared drives and what you can and can't do as far as content manager and manager access, and making sure that you're giving people the access that you want them to have. Another way that you can manage members for a drive itself is you can also, while you're inside the drive, click on this down arrow here and click manage members right here. That's just a way to access the managers anywhere you'd like.
Well, that's good. You can hit it from anywhere. Really,
yeah, basically they want you to have access anywhere you are inside that drive to give somebody access. And that is going to give somebody access to the drive. Okay. This is not giving them access to the folder or file itself that you're on. Tell us about how this compares to SharePoint and document libraries or something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities, but there are some very specific differences that if you don't understand how to translate between the two, it's going to throw you for a loop, especially if you're coming from one to the other. So let's get into it. I'm going to share my screen. I'm in SharePoint. So if I hit the three little waffle guys and I click the SharePoint, it brings me to where I'm at here. Now, again, just to kind of reiterate, SharePoint is similar to Google Drive, but it's different. Microsoft has integrated SharePoint with its websites as well as drives as kind of one piece. So you could create a SharePoint site that has no document libraries in it at all. It could just be a calendar. It could be a website. Kaylee kind of creates, Kaylee, didn't you create a video on how to do this?
I created a video and I'll link it above here of how you can create a site and make it a website, make it look pretty for your team.
Which is great. So, I mean, maybe you might have some news or things like that that you want inside your organization. This is really good, but you can also use it for the perspective of a shared like Google Drive library that everybody inside the organization can access. So you would just click this to create a new site, but we've already done that. And since Kaylee covered that in her video, we're just going to go into here so we can kind of stay more specific. But under this Axiom test site that I have under documents, this is how I get to the document library. So as you can see, now I have the document libraries where I can add files, and I can even, sync it to my OneDrive, which I know you can do that with Google Drive. I don't think you covered that in yours, but it's in the menu and it's here as well. One of the things, though, I do have a complaint about SharePoint is by its very nature, it wants to have an open arm and share to everybody inside the organization. But if you want to limit access to who has access to the site or the library, it's a little bit more complicated outside the scope of this video, but it does get it's kind of a pain in the butt to get in here to get it exactly the way you want. It's not intuitive, right? You don't see in here where you could just say, oh, let me just go ahead and, let me just change the permissions for the users that have access to the site natively. It really doesn't operate quite like that. Whereas with Google, the permissions are right there on the drive and you can change them very easily. It doesn't really do a great job of that. You can do that, but it's a video that we we'll cover later.
Yeah.
I do feel like Google does a better job of making the drives easier to add, access, change permissions, and see. I just feel like it's a lot more native. Creating a SharePoint site and then attaching a library is more cumbersome in my opinion. You can do that obviously in Google Sites, right? Isn't that what they call it? I think.
Yep. Right? Google Sites is very similar to the aesthetic version of SharePoint when creating a site.
Right. But in order for me to kind of create this library for me to share amongst everybody inside the organization, this is how you have to do it. You have to create a site library for us to do that. And one of the things that I'm not a big fan of is under SharePoint, like by default, if you're like Kaylee, for example, if she wanted to see this, she would have to go search it and then add it in here. Yeah. And the beautiful thing about Google Drives is as soon as you add someone to permissions, boom, they have it. It shows up right in theirs. It's very much like, let's get down to business and get working. You know, you kind of see that theme through Google, and their approach is let's make it easy. Let's make it quick and fast, efficient for you to have access to this resources and data. So they're really good at doing that. It's just, it doesn't quite have as many security features that I would like, but unfortunately, Microsoft is a little slow about making it as convenient and as easy as it should be. So that's kind of a knock I have about that. I'm sure there's some people that have some different opinions about that might say, oh, you could do it here. You're not showing this, Bobby. You're not showing that. The point I'm trying to make is you could see how easy and intuitive the sharing and the changing permissions by just a few clicks inside Google is there. Yeah. And it's not that way in SharePoint and OneDrive.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Kaylee. So one of the things I think it's important to talk about is the storage aspect. With OneDrive, you have a terabyte of storage per individual user. So if you have 10 people, each of those people have a terabyte. It does not pull them together as an aggregate. They each individually get a terabyte. Now, that's different when you're talking about SharePoint, which we're going to cover later in this video. But I know Google handles theirs differently. So can you talk to that, Kelly?
Yeah. So the business standard for Google starts off as 2 terabytes per user, but it is added to a pooled storage, and that will cap at 25 terabytes once you hit Enterprise Essentials. Now, there is
which is a different license, right?
That is a different license. So you can go from standard to plus to essentials. And you can also choose G Suite Business, which is a whole different license in itself. And that does have unlimited storage, but that's going to be a whole nother pricing. So just make sure that you're looking at those intently as you're making those decisions for an organization.
One of the things that's really important that I see a bit of a difference, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong there, is Google by its nature wants to tie license and cost to every account. The nice thing I like about Microsoft, this is going back to the security aspect, is you can create admin accounts. These admin accounts do not get a bill, but they do have the rights to manage and globally manage all those. And why would you want to do that? Well, having a separate account than your walk around account is much safer. Yes. And is a business standard practice. A lot of security platforms and controls highly suggest that you always have separate admin accounts than your normal walking around account. But because the fact that Google's going to charge you for that admin account, most people are going to want to say, well, I want to save the money. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have my account be a global admin. Well, if you get compromised, then they have the same rights that you do, and they can do a lot of damage. Whereas if you have separate admin accounts inside your container, when you're doing these OneDrives and SharePoint setups for your organization, it's just a lot safer. So always use separate admin accounts. Sadly, on the Google side, you're going to pay for that. In Microsoft, you don't.
Yeah. When we created our Google Workspace and we set up our business account, we did have to pay for every single license that we chose. That was an admin account and admin license. And if you have found a way around that you would love to share with this community, hit us up in the comments below. Well, I hope that you guys learned a lot from this video, because we loved diving into this and creating it. I have not seen a video like this before, and I wish I did, because I was so confused going into this. So I hope that you guys aren't as confused as I was, and that this video helps you utilize each of these tools. Maybe you're transitioning from one to the other. You're trying to decide which one to go with. I hope that this video brings light to a lot of things things for you and your organization. If you have any questions or recommendations on videos in the future, make sure to comment below and let us know about that. And don't forget to hit the like button on this video and subscribe with that notification bell so you can be notified anytime we upload a new video.
And Kaylee, I think it's also important to mention that this is just one of many videos that we're going to do on this comparison between Google Workspace and the Microsoft space. So I think this really needs good attention and coverage, just so that we're really going to be trying to focus on creating that Rosetta Stone translation between the two. So people coming back and forth between them can kind of understand, like if you're coming from Google and you're going to Microsoft, what do I lose, right? What am I going to give up? But what am I going to gain? So, and there's definitely pros and cons to both. So having kind of that translation between them really helps you understand, especially if you're trying to communicate to management, as well as what am I getting into?
Yep. Great point. Yep. This is just one, just like he said, of many videos that we're going to cover. So again, make sure to subscribe so that you know anytime we upload those new videos about this topic. And we hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we will see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.